So,
I think it's going to the online only.
online.
I woke up at 7 and then I
Huh?
saw
Huh?
his. Like I woke up in the morning and saw his mail. Like 8:30?
Is that really 8:30? I think it's 9.
I'm so sleepy.
I woke up so early. Do we have a C4, C5?
I have to check.
I don't remember. That's only media on the bottom. This drawer was all
Plus, we need the inventory.
the inventory.
If there were any sequences, you would have found it already.
That's a frozen one, and we throw the sequence one.
Conflict?
It's okay. I ate that. I have a beer while Yashika, like I don't celebrate.
Is it today? Oh, I'll save you some.
Three.
Oh, I won't be here.
Mm.
We have statistics when.
I think 6.
Maybe I'll just go down.
Let's check it. Something available. Today is the beaches today. I try to not like what else? No method, nothing is on the canvas. We must say Muslim healed. Hello.
I don't see him in the
Hmm?
melanoma. He usually comes like in the morning when he is basically taking class from melon.
So he goes there first and come
Yeah,
here.
he keeps his bag there and then comes to.
In his office.
Right.
I saw he was in his office. In the
I'm surprised
afternoon.
he still has an office here.
Yeah, I was surprised yesterday.
The invite was like early morning 6 o'clock. I was like, oh my god.
6 o'clock.
This guy is alive.
Today's routine is very odd for us. We have like early morning classes and then another classes at 6 p.m.
Oh, okay. So you have stats, right? Yeah, stats, most of the stats classes here I saw they're like starting 6:30. Even the one I was planning to take, it is like starting 6:30 to 8:30. Yeah, unfortunately, I can't take that class.
I have a payer when your advisor emailed around around 3, right?
No, so,
The Yashika's.
yes, she does.
I have payer around the time, so maybe I'll stop by before I
No,
go to payer. Something
It is
like.
not 1. But what time is it?
I think that was 3. 3.
Yeah, 3 o'clock is the.
I
You
have.
won't be able to.
I have a payer at 2 to 4.
Oh.
So maybe I'll stop by
Yeah.
like 1:30
Or maybe
ish.
in between
Something
you
like.
can just come like. In between just come from there.
It's mine.
You can keep your laptop there in there.
Oh, let me go to bathroom
You can
and
always visit
let me
the
go to
restroom, right?
bathroom
Yes.
and
Yeah.
let me check it.
And then it is
Text me when it just starts. Then
Yeah, and then
then
also
show my face
also you
and
can
then.
take that key,
Okay.
locker key. You can say that I was gone to that locker room to check the mails down there on the first floor. Yeah, you can come stop by, eat and go
Okay.
because we have like tacos, Madman's tacos, and we have I don't know if you drink wine. The wine is getting wine, and I have got like multiple drinks, like soft drinks, mango nectar, and then different things.
That's 3. And maybe. Proceed.
Everyone's sneezing, coughing.
I got called, I think, from Muslim.
Yeah, even Dr. Leek is not doing good.
I think I
Like,
got
he
it
will be
from
coming
him.
today.
I made it, so so I can probably say I made Yashika is leaving, so maybe something like.
I don't know if Dr. Leek is coming today.
Maybe.
She was not here right, yesterday. She is not in the
Where is her office?
She is now sitting next to Dr. John Fido's
Really?
office. Ethics
So there is
office.
one here and there is another here, but I don't
Yeah,
know
so the
where.
other one.
The other side?
So this is Dr. John Fido, right? And then there is another
Mm.
person. Like when I enter from.
So there are 3 rooms inside.
Yeah, there are I guess 1, 2, 3. Yes,
Oh.
3 rooms. So the corner ones towards the towards Bear building. That room is Dr. Leek's room. She's like totally isolated.
Looks like it because they look connected. Geoffrida and other, they are connected almost like a.
Yeah, it's a 3-room area.
I couldn't find.
I never knew there was such rooms.
Yeah. No. So how I know, like in 2017, I applied for farm admin.
The admin.
So these guys, like I met these guys here because Ashmi was still here, right? So I was here to meet them. So I also met the professors. And I was called in that area. I was looking for that room. But I don't know where is that room because the main door seems like I'm entering into someone's office.
Yes, but then.
So I was like, is this area? And then I started searching for the room. So I don't know if you know this person, Dr. Khalid Kamal.
No.
I wanted to meet the person, and he.
That person is.
accepted. Like he
yeah.
accepted. He sent me an offer. for farm admin. Otherwise,
Mm.
I would have been in farm admin today.
Mm.
But yeah, he
Mm.
went to West Virginia. He
Mm.
became the chairperson there.
Mm. I
the
saw
chair of the
him
department.
last year. I saw him.
Last year.
I saw him.
Oh, okay.
Mm.
So what's like
Yeah, because
the,
He
Yeah.
pretended like he worked there for a while. Like he introduced like, oh, we have a nice pharmacy. He never said, oh, I have some good connection with the Duquesne. Something like he mentioned a little bit about the Duquesne. There we are close. Something like, but never said I was from the Duquesne. But somebody said like he used it
So then
probably.
he was like, I am like, I'm in pain, Vivek, since you got the admission, and then now I have to tell you that I could not come to see this program because this program is getting.
Was he the only one? Was he the
Then
only one?
Dr. Kavi, Dr. John Fido, they're all farm.
Three.
so couldn't you transfer like you to the
No, West Virginia. West Virginia has a different set of. I also applied to West Virginia. Over there, the rule is if you are an international student, you need an MS in the.
Master.
I did not have an MS in the US.
but then
Master in US. That's different.
Dr. Kamal could transfer you
Yeah,
admission to
he was
Dr.
new,
Jain.
right? Like, so he did not take that risk. Like, I asked him like, if you can.
He could take you
and
to
It was an
there.
upgrade program. Like, Duquesne had a master's program. I applied for masters, and over there it was a PhD program. So they were like, we cannot take someone who applied for masters and now directly jumps into a PhD program. So I think Dr. Kamal did try that. I know that the person cannot, but then you can. This is a usual affair. Like people from bachelors they join PhD. So he did try to explain, but then there was this person Usha Samba Murthy. She did not explain. And good that I did not get into that program
that's
because the
definitely-
program is not doing good.
Really?
They are cutting on budget.
The
West
school.
Virginia.
They looked really big. The whole school looks so like a UPIT.
Yeah.
Like a UPIT is like a spread.
Huge campus.
That
It's
look
very
like a
confusing
very.
building. I did visit West Virginia University as well because they arranged for a. Since I was here, they arranged for the entire walk.
Interview.
Yeah, no, like walking you through the
Walking.
campus and all.
Campus
It
tour.
was so confusing. Like there is a medical college, and there is a neuro. surgery.
It looks like they have everything like a medical
Yeah.
school,
Right.
something like a pharmacy school, dental school, something.
And another thing was, then I applied to PIT. So
Mm.
PIT, I got into this lab, Dr. Kanhosu's lab. But then, like they were demanding like 60,000 per semester. I was like, I cannot get 60,000.
60,000 is.
That's the state
Too
university.
high.
How they
And
charge
they're
you.
not giving me any TA or anything. I was like,
Was it a PhD program?
No, masters.
Oh, okay.
PhD, they were not giving me PhD because that particular program, like for how health outcomes and policy research, requires some.
So what was the-
prerequisites. Basically, you should have some understanding
Experience
of
on
What was the
health
program?
economics,
What was the program?
health outcomes, and
Health up.
policy research.
In UPIT. In pharmacy.
Yeah, it's called different. It is named differently in different universities, like based on what they have to offer. Like West Virginia, it is called HSOR. So it is health and socio. Sorry, health and socio-economic. So health and socio-economic outcome research. So yeah, this was West Virginia. PIT, it was called like health outcomes and policy research. So HOPR.
Yeah.
So I applied a lot. Like I'm applying since 2017, and then finally, pharmacology was my second choice. Actually, they were my first choice.
Good. That's good. That's good.
So what you wanted?
Pharmaceutics.
Pharmaceutics. What?
My master's was in pharmaceutics.
Pharmaceutics.
Why? But then why was it not easy to get
So the
into
first
Duquesne
time
or-
I only applied to pharmaceutics, and
When did you
then
apply to Duquesne?
the first time,
That was
first time I
same?
did apply to Duquesne, but
So
then
which lab?
I applied to Dr. Vianish lab and also Dr. Martin's lab, but then
Okay.
nothing. So first time my application was not that strong either. I like check anyway.
But
it was-
you were yourself a physics person. Why was it not strong? Why was it strong in pharmacology?
I
not in-
applied like very late, like at the end of the December. Oh wait, no. The first time I could not apply to Duquesne because Duquesne's application portal was closed.
No.
So I only applied to pharmaceutics. I got an offer at Texas Tech, but then I was transferred into pharmacology. And then again from pharmacology, the professor that chose me, she had a budget cut, so she was like, "You come here, do a master's, and then again I will take you to a PhD program. So there was.
This is the best choice.
Yeah.
But then,
Just 1 year,
see,
then just
I
best
don't know
choice.
about the Texas University, but then you are at least in the United City.
Yeah. So
I mean, that
super-
school looks good.
That the Texas
But
Tech
what I mean
school
is-
is good,
Mm.
but the neighborhood was
It's
very.
not.
Oh, then.
It's very like nothing is there.
Mm.
It's so like anyway, my senior was there and she was like,
Mm.
no, just apply again.
Mm.
This is and the masters was in I think something related to biochemistry, not even related.
It should be long. I'm sorry.
No problem. I got it.
Oh,
So is it long?
really?
Hi.
Okay.
I don't think so. They start at 30.
I
I highly
think-
doubt.
I think it's 9.
Oh my god, I look horrible.
Hmm? Hmm?
Suddenly the Zoom screen is showing my face.
Your face. Maybe I'll mute myself. Amit is very strict.
But then I like this. Like,
Mahi
at least
is
we have
very
a
flexible.
option to.
Amit is, I feel like he's very like. I'll tell you later.
At least we have a option.
Good
to
student.
Zoom.
Good student.
Who?
Amit.
Amit?
But
Why
mine
is he-
is a little bit flexible.
Ma.
He's a little bit flexible. But you know what I mean, like lenient. But Amit looks like strict. Because when I go
Amit is
there,
strict, I think.
when I go there, usually they leave. People leave, but he was like he was waiting like until his time is
I
over.
think it's his lab. For to exist in his lab. It's-
He can stay. He can stay outside.
Like that is the criteria. You don't smile. That means you get into that lab. You don't.
But mine is like lenient, like so cool.
I think it's his lab.
Oh no, it's installing updates. So it's.
I know. I had to restart.
So were you able to see the mail picture yesterday
I
when you
don't
reboot?
have- In mobile, I could.
That's
I
weird.
can actually like if I.
I don't like
write
the
down
I don't like the email because every time I try to send it, I can't really attach the file, and I was doing over and over and over.
We did get your email, but only one time, not multiple times.
No. I was to keep trying, and then I got email. Thank you, and I was like, that's why I asked you. Oh, you get it? Because I was writing, and later it showed like something
Oh.
looked like.
I think the software needs an update because I could not find any email from Sunday. In
I-
mobile, I can, but when I was trying to download it to update the presentation.
This one is really problematic. This one, through this one, whatever like the app or like website is very bad.
And I'm like, I did saw his email on Sunday because I remember you email, but I couldn't find it. Like, what is happening?
Mm. I think what Apsana is doing is better than pharmaceutics.
I had this whole project plan, but then the next year I had to like apply properly. So
But this, I think, Dr. Ethan interview is
Yes.
the better. What?
so I
way
had
way
another offer,
better.
Dr. Wittenberg is offered, and I talked with everyone. Everyone was
Mm.
like, this program is better. Her
Duquesne is
It's like
famous.
you knew of seen since the beginning.
I knew her before. We had from undergrad. I knew.
Mm.
Oh, okay.
So I talked to her and I talked to like whoever was doing PhD. I think I emailed all of them. Like, is it the university or is it the professor? So everyone was like, it's the professor.
Oh,
Don't
professor
forget
is
about-
good.
So,
Professor is
if you
good.
are interested in pharmaceutics and say also slight inclination towards pharmacology, Manikam lab, Yannick's lab would have been really.
The two people will be.
I remember.
Manikam might be happy. Yannick might be hardworking. Manika might be so happy.
I think there is a way where how you can manage Dr. J.
Oh, really?
Dr. J can somehow manage. Kriti is
Really?
doing it really well. Amit is also doing it really well. Like, Amit has now understood like how to.
It's the
like
first
afraid.
thing.
She's really tough, but
Mm.
but speaking on these.
It's not working. Waiting. It's waiting.
I think it's you can't get like very offended with her personality. You have to accept as she is. Like she will be loud, she will be very aggressive at times, but
But
then
I would say that is good.
like, but she
She's at
helps
least open.
I wonder
She
how
helps
ready.
a lot. Like
Right.
helped him in the beginning a lot.
I wonder how Ready is doing. I think she's doing very well. Ready.
And I mean, she's like a flower. No, she fights for your fights for her students.
Really?
I know she's not for Sonira, but then she did fight. And even for Sonira, she fought actually.
Sunira was very hard working
the
though.
defense, she actually was not clearing.
The
No, I
the
heard that.
the
She
defense
fought
was
for
long.
Sharma.
Yeah.
The defense was like never ending, and they were worried about why it's taking so long. Told them.
So did you attend the defense? Sonira's
I
defense?
I was there like I don't know, like 30 minutes, then I left.
Yeah, I remember
Mm.
you came and said like it's very professional. It's nothing like our seminar.
No, that was even their like a mock
Oh,
presentation.
That's more.
Mock was like
So you
like a
attended
critic.
mock or the actual defense?
I went to defend, and then even when I went to mock, Sunira was so everybody. You know what I mean?
That's because it is Dr. J, I guess. Maybe it varies
No,
from lab to
no,
lab.
they're the I don't know. The peoples in the
No,
pharmaceutics
yeah,
might be like
pharmaceutics,
very
they're because I talked
strict.
with Nahid also said something
They
like
do
not
it
only
this-
our professor, our students are very attentive and they ask questions.
like a serious,
Professor, yeah, on the level of a
like
professor.
10 times serious than you. Like
My advice
look at me like this.
My advisor is super chill. She's like,
Like-
yesterday, I'm asking her, Dr. Lauren, I've sent the T-Rex flow orders. Can you just approve it so that I can have it before my experiments? She's like, yeah, that is fine. What are you getting for tomorrow, Yashika's this farewell? I was like, I should be ordering first.
I was gonna say you like last time, Lauren kind of like that person.
Yeah.
She's kind of like I don't know, something like
But then you have to be
I try to like tell you at
behind
the,
her for getting
Mm.
things done. Otherwise, you'll delay. This.
I know,
I
I
have
know.
a flow planned on 28th
Mm.
of
I know.
this month, like August, and like I do not have agents. Like it is what 24. Like, I
Mm.
don't have agents. So if I
24.
I'll have to. I know I reminded her like yesterday, but I'll have to remind her today as well.
Keep remind because
Yeah.
yeah, something like was that like a class?
Our
She was-
professor does this thing. So whenever you send an email and she hasn't attended it yet, and we'll take time, she pings it over her like out.
She's super quick on email. I know, not to pretend to be right. Like
Even
I
if
used to send this like for methods class. when we used to send, she's like,
Right
the
on.
moment I share, she's like, oh, thank you, Vivek. I got your assignment. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
You're so quick. Like you are still awake.
She sent us an email today at 5 a.m.
Ah,
Was it fine?
that is not something.
Thank
that
you,
I
thank
do.
you,
Like,
thank you.
Yeah.
I was like, I woke up and I was like, oh, thank you. Okay, I'll go to bed. I always check and then, oh, is that urgent?
I
And
know.
then-
I was like, okay. This.
But I was like totally like wake up.
5 a.m. Hey, Afsana and Dio. I was like, oh my god.
morning.
Because I always check
So,
there is something number first,
Yeah.
then I check. Oh, then then
does
it's
she
like
expect reply
No,
immediately?
not anymore.
Oh, not anymore. As in she used to.
Like, okay. You remember that Hassan guy whose paper
Yeah,
we dissected?
Mahmood.
Yeah.
Right, right.
He kind of gets her into a habit of replying whenever she replies.
So
So
he said the time.
after that, the next students, they were like, talked her through it.
Lauren once emailed us like me, Ashika and Manisha at like 4:30 in the morning.
Was
But that
she
was
in
like
bed?
really like dire need. it was like we should be informed about it like well before someone comes at 7 in
Okay.
here in
Mm.
Milan. So she replied with an urgent mark.
Mm.
But then
Mm.
she was like, if you have read this,
Mm.
I totally respect your personal time. Please don't feel free to ignore this email just for your information.
Yeah. No, Dr. Wittenberg is very.
They are
with
same,
us.
similar. They are very similar. Like,
He knows, like, hey, I wake up really early, but you guys
So-
don't have to like
Get up. Okay.
get
Mm.
up. Yeah.
and she said last time, like, she tried to send, like, I don't know, 7-ish, 8-ish, right?
Yeah.
You understand it, right?
But then she's good.
I didn't say anything.
She's best in what she does. Yeah.
She's
really
very,
best in what she
very
does.
passionate.
Yeah.
And she'll
Mhm.
inject it into you.
And then I only fear her like when I think of calm.
I
or
think
when I
we
think
were
of
thinking
calm.
you are the perfect one.
Yes, we were just talking the other day, like you would be
You are
perfect
the,
for
you are
her.
the, no, perfect for everybody.
No, I remember like Rashika was mentioning for her calm, she just don't tell anyone, but she just passed her by 1 point, like just 1 point. Otherwise, she would have failed her calm. She was so like she was scrutinizing her document so well, and then her questions were like, okay, the reference number 20 that you've given does not really is relevant to the statement that you've
I
written in your
remember.
thesis. I was like, oh my god.
She does that.
Were you in the last, something like last summer's, what about the Blue Area? You're not? The pharmacology we all go, you remember? We went there last time. Okay.
Were we here?
Like, the south side.
Which
Like,
around
during,
which
like,
time? Around June,
Yashik,
July?
once,
Was it June?
once Eric, no, it's Eric passed,
Yeah.
then we went, and then I heard I'm also in Yashika, they were talking like, they, you know what I mean, what you said, like, something similar, I
Oh, okay,
remember,
Okay.
but not like in
No,
detail.
so
but
yeah, she is difficult when it comes to calm. Yeah, Yashika mentioned. She's like what Yashika said. I'll quote.
Mm.
She said, "Dr. Wittenby is not Dr. Wittenby during your calm.
Mm.
And during your calm and
Mm.
during your ORP, she becomes altogether different person, as if you are meeting that person for the first time. And she is like so critical that at one point, like first of all, it is really difficult to get hold of your advisor because I tell you, she's super busy. So Yashika kind of gave 119 options for her defense.
Oh my
She had
god.
to select like one from 119 different options.
what's the option?
Options doesn't the time,
The schedule
like the
for
schedule,
me.
the availability, basically. Availability of Dr. Vitamin, and she was not available. She was like, oh my god.
That was
What next
that was the
I should do?
spring. That was this spring.
Yeah, like
that's
19 July. For 19 July, she selected because she had some trial. So, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, our professor is like that because
And,
I remember from we had Fahima, the student that recently graduated.
Mhm.
She was like that because she used to write like pages, 2 to 3 pages of the
Fahima
explanation.
Munmun, right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
and Dr. Wittenberg would just condense it into one paragraph and like okay, the next. And even for my first seminar last fall,
Mm.
the review sheet, the most review I got was from my
From
professor.
Dr.
And
Vitamin.
she like
I got it more
One
from
minute.
like Dr. Leek. Like
Oh,
3 pages.
and then
Not
Dr.
a lot.
Mm.
Sorry, Dr. Leek had like supplements.
A lot.
The main feedback sheet and then like front and back of the feedback sheet plus 2 more supplements. I was like, how am I going to address all this? I was like, Dr. Leek, do I need to like send an email saying like addressing these questions? She's like, no, just take care of those questions next
yeah,
time.
Dr. Lee
She's
was
she's
very
so nice.
concise.
Mm.
Anuja's feedback was very long for my fall.
Critical, like both Christine and Anujas. They are good, they are appreciative, but then also at the same time, few of them are like very, hitting like they hit you really hard on your weaknesses.
And then the last
Mm.
feedback, like Anuj wrote down the whole section at the bottom, and then I flipped the page. There was like also
More.
feedback.
Right.
And the last feedback
E Club
was
is really good at giving feedback. They give really nice.
In a short time, one in the 1 hour. I
Anush's
don't know.
last feedback
Ideally-
really made me laugh. Like, your paper was not good.
What paper?
In the
Journal
paper,
club.
Journal club, journal
Yes,
club.
I know.
See, you should have just replied like, oh, it's a journal club. Come on, man. Take it as an informative session. And my problem was I took really long paper. This time I'm going to take a short paper
Please.
and explain only the most critical ones.
Journal club is easy compared to.
I thought like only nature would help, but then later Dr. Lawrence said it's okay if you don't take nature and all. It's totally fine.
I don't know what will happen this time. I don't have the first year cushion. Last year I feel like all of the professors were a bit forgiving since it was
Right.
our first time.
And there was option.
Now they won't. And that is why like I'm behind like running behind Dr. Laura to generate data, but she seems relaxed. I was like, oh my god, my advisor is relaxed. Why
Don't
am I
be,
taking so much
you
of-
gotta ask.
Yeah,
You
actually.
gotta just ask
So I kept
because
reminding
she's
her,
busy.
like, I have ordered this.
I
on
can't even see
21st
her.
August. Like I put this order on like 21st August, and since then I've been reminding her. This is her third reminder. Today will be her third reminder. So let's see.
I don't know what to do. I have less than a month.
The problem is I can wait, but the animals cannot. The animals have given birth, and I have to like
Maybe-
like, give injections at a particular
Your
point.
problems, Vivek.
Maybe,
The animals can
maybe.
do.
Yeah, animals cannot wait. I have to inject them at day 2. I have to inject them with measles at day 2, and then collect them at day 9. I'm like, oh my god.
Muslim seems to be
I
similar.
think so. I
Muslim.
think he'll be here.
Hello.
This is mostly for Chetan.
He texted on a group chat.
I really want it to be a physical class rather than online class. Because in Zoom classes, your names will be at the bottom, and
Yeah.
Dr. Johnson will just
Ask you.
quote your name like, "Hey,
No, no.
Melanie,
Yeah.
what do you think?"
No, the best part is whosoever is not on, like who has not kept the video on,
Video on.
he'll target that person first.
Must.
Okay, yo, Vivek,
I always.
I don't
get
see your
my
video on. Okay, just
Mm.
One
Camera
time-
on, please,
one time
camera,
My video
please.
was on, but I was like plugging in my charger, so I was like a bit this, and he was like, "Afsana, what do you think?" I was like, "What?"
Were your camera on?
My
Was
camera
it
was on. I was just plugging in my charger.
Oh. He was watching the camera as well while he's talking.
and one day like nobody was interested. I remember, and he was like very boldly he said that I don't know why the class seems
Yeah.
little distracted today because nobody was answering. Actually, it was end of the fall,
And
Ah,
and
everyone was
I guess
busy.
end of his.
I don't
lectures as well.
remember.
Something.
It's
We
fine,
were
actually.
busy.
Mm.
Something. I don't know what.
No.
No, he was the
Something
one.
was there, I don't know. But nobody was serious. Everybody was taking it so lightly, and he said somehow I feel the class is not attentive today. And then he's like,
Even Vivek. Even Vivek.
No, even I was not attentive. Like even I was not attentive. I agree because there was something pressing. I don't know what. Is it methods or something? I don't know.
Something. We were.
There was something that we could not focus
When
on
was
that
that?
class.
I don't remember.
Not
When
that
was
we
that?
were having fun.
Is
It's
that
just-
Thanksgiving?
it's-
Right
Could
before?
be something. We must have a long day or was. I
Maybe,
don't know.
maybe
There
Dr.
was-
Witten and the visit the homework? I don't know.
Oh, I.
So do you have methods this fall?
No.
One? No, right? Okay.
You have 3 courses, right?
It's seminar, ethics, and this.
Okay.
So it will be.
It'll
a
be
bit
lighter for them.
Yeah.
For us, it was really difficult at first.
But I wish they had method in their first year.
Mm.
Correct. Actually, yes.
Mm.
That, we like.
Yeah.
So it was good for us actually.
Mm.
Yeah. I mean,
And
by
we're
the
done with
time.
like methods 1, 2.
Mm.
Done in that.
We are still doing same thing. C4, C5.
I think for method, if you do it on your first year, you have a good start to the lab work.
Mm.
By the time, I think you'll have it in your third year or next year.
Kind of
Next
like
year.
Is it yearly only, not semester?
odd year.
Odd year.
Oh,
I think they have just 2 students, and that's why Dr. Vitendo might not find it like she was not comfortable spending so much on this class.
oh,
Maybe when you have like,
Oh, yeah.
more students next year,
yeah.
Maybe next year.
Mm.
or maybe
The
it
year
will be
after.
delayed for them, I guess.
Mm.
Yeah, by the time they get to the method class, they will know most of the
Most of
stuff.
the techniques, yeah.
So it would be
Mm.
easier for you.
That's right. But then Dr. Vitendo will make sure that it's not easy for you guys. Because it was not for us.
You guys have to like work. Oh,
Mm.
I remember last time during submission. Oh my
Oh, the
god.
final paper, oh my
Oh
god.
my god.
Everybody submitted like
40%.
at 12 o'clock, not 12 o'clock.
Even then, she was like, I'm cutting few points because your reference these. Like I said, she went through all the reference.
Mm.
Like you put a period here, not
Mm.
there. Oh my
Oh.
god! Oh my god! Don't do that. But then again, I could not care less for the points as long as it's done because it was very daunting.
Mm.
Who is the professor?
Dr. Witender,
Very nice.
our professor.
Okay.
It's good because I still go back to those files to
Yeah.
create data table and like what we did. It was very intensive, but at that time we had 4 courses.
Like
Oh.
she'll start from ground zero, like she'll start from scratch.
Yeah, like from pipetting.
Starting from
Oh.
how you pipette, and
Oh.
then she'll try to make the class so complex, so complicated. At the end of the semester, you'll find yourself much more comfortable writing a paper or writing a big paper in a short time.
Yeah.
You will learn a lot.
You learn a lot
That's
from
for
her.
sure.
I'm sure.
But we had 4 courses, and everyone's deadline was like coinciding with the same week.
Yeah.
And we were
And
like,
this guy, everything on that day, like 6th of December, I still remember.
6th to 7th of December, like he had a seminar.
Everything. You had to submit everything on that day.
We had an ethics presentation, like final presentation. This
So we were
Young
all
was getting
praying
quieter
for
and
Yom.
quieter. He was not talking. He was like sitting.
Thanksgiving was not actually Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving was like, I don't know what I did.
But then we
Something like-
managed to postpone our neuronal pharmacology.
Oh,
right?
thank you,
You-
Vivek.
You did.
Yeah, we managed to do that,
You did.
and also we managed to postpone the methods assignment submission as well.
You did.
It was impossible.
So finally, it was just seminar and the ethics presentation that we did, right, on 7th.
Even then, we thought the ethics was over. He
Ethics
came
was
with
very
another
demanding.
written, whatever it was.
But this time it is good. Like we have like our seminars first.
Mm.
We'll be done with the seminars and then
Mm.
okay. good to go.
Even though I
By
have no
next,
idea what I would present,
by-
it's less than a month. But
Yeah.
whatever it is, it will.
I don't feel
You
like
are
pressure
a
to
committee
this
meeting,
time.
Mm.
so why don't you know what you are presenting?
I
You should teach us how you.
yes, give us
How
tips
you-
and
She is the best presenter over here. So
You don't help during comedy. I can dance even. They'll like stop your dancing. This data is not correct.
So when is yours? Muslim you are first, right? Like or Afsana
no, Afsana is first and then
Afsana is first.
It's
Like, when is
according
yours,
to-
Afsana?
18
Vivek, you are
September.
first, no?
No. I'm like 2nd October.
Oh,
it's
18,
according to
you-
alphabetic order.
18 and
Afsana,
then Muslim.
Muslim, Vivek,
Oh
and
my
then
God.
Islamic.
Afsana, Jahan,
A,
M.
Afsana, M,
Muslim honors.
Vivek,
Mhm.
no.
I should change my name. Something to start with Z or X. I don't know.
You never know if it is Dr. Veterano, we should start from like, start
No.
countable. Z first.
No, it's good. Whatever
Sort
happens,
alphabetically.
I don't want to ruin my
Sort
thanks.
anti-alphabetically.
Guys, if it turns out to be an online class, then
Remember last year?
I think it will be interesting.
it was all online.
here,
last year.
Muslim, here.
Last
Thank
year
you.
we saw it here running out of his house, and he was like, "I saw it here. I will not take any classes today. It's so beautiful."
Who?
Johnson.
Oh,
You don't remember
I
that?
don't remember.
So is Chetan coming this month?
He will be coming around 22nd of September, but we don't know that he had gotten visa or not. Yeah,
Visa.
So he's
he
in
has
India?
Visa issue. Yeah.
So common.
It's slightly colder today, or am I feeling that?
No,
Mm.
Okay.
I would have offered you my sweater, but I don't think it's your style.
No.
Muslim can change his style.
Not that much.
Mhm.
She knows, right?
Yeah, I have the.
Where are you going? Where are you going? Where are you going? I can go here. You can use my laptop.
So can you post him in response to
Okay.
whether we're
I have to find papers for him.
What are you doing?
Oh, I'm reading.
Gotcha.
Muslim you gave me very good.
What? And then 103H is just for time dependency and
You give
Take it as a gift from
of different age, starting from
I'm giving it to my supervisor. Who are you then?
and that room is like pretty relaxed.
She's not well yet.
But the mystery is you seem very
This paper.
You seem very healthy.
That's what I'm saying. How you can be so healthy?
And the visual kind of that we use.
Your advice is not me.
How can a person look healthy?
Okay.
We're not worrying about it. We like spreading it, but then yeah, obviously we should take care of that. So you're joining lab anytime soon?
So that's what Dr. O'Donnell and I were trying to figure out because I don't have much lab research. I have like a tiny bit of computer lab. So she's just trying to like coordinate schedules. So what great
So today we have this Yashika's fair and then we have
Did you know what happened yesterday? For the locked cold room locked.
What happened? Who? You found it. Who? Please tell us.
I thought was it you?
Huh?
I thought it was you.
No. He found it in the email.
It was easier. Everyone was emailing and no one was going physically and looking
That's
for
what
it.
Dr. O'Donnell told
Like
us.
Rebecca
Like, kind of
emailed that there's no lock code.
Yeah.
But what she should have done is like
She
she should have
was-
gone to the room, the locker room. Like if it's not locked, go in. Whose stuff is in there?
Oh yeah, that's
It was
very-
Rami's. And-
Rami's?
Yeah. And then I went
Yes,
to
I
Rami's,
saw. Yes, I
And I
saw.
was
I saw
talking to
once.
him like on phone, and Dr. J came at Rami's office, and she thought that I am in Clarity Lab, and me and Rami's both are the culprit for it.
Oh, that is why she very specifically mentioned on the email. Thanks to Muslim from Dr. Lee's lab.
So then I told her that I don't have anything to do in it. Like I am not the culprit, and I was just looking for it, helping you guys.
Right,
That
right.
where is the law? Then she realized, oh, and
Good-
then
good
she
that
changed
you
her
know that.
tone suddenly.
You
that-
need to do with her actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then she
need
said
to do
that
that thing.
you should tell your friend that it's not good thing, and he's not my friend. I said, Ramesh is not my friend. I was just
I
helping you
saw
guys.
something like last week. He went to inside, but I was like, oh, that's new
Yeah.
because everybody knows, right? We all know.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you. You saved it. Pen, pen. Sick. Muslim gave me a job.
I don't know why I always seem to have trouble with computer stuff. Maybe it is my age. The other thing, I'm wondering if we could move this camera. Because all it's doing now is looking at you guys. So let's see. It's set up differently.
This one.
Recording in progress.
You don't.
That,
Oh yes, I think I joined. Sorry.
So I'm getting double-ended notes.
I'll label.
welcome, Shaitan.
Yeah.
Good evening. Okay.
Thank you.
Glad to have you with us. Okay, where we left off on Tuesday was with a discussion of receptors and binding. And we looked at ionic bonds and hydrogen bonds, etc. However, I wanted to take a look at graphically some of the things related to affinity and efficacy. And so I'm going to just try a couple things here. Hold on just a moment. Get this out to share screen. We'll go to see if we do a whiteboard. Okay. Thank you. I know I'm screen sharing. Okay. So, taking a look at affinity, binding affinity. I wonder if I can change the color. There ought to be a way to do that. Is it up here? Ah. But first, I'm going to erase. And we're going to do a draw. All right. Now I get that to stop. There we go. Okay. Here, we're going to have percent binding. here, we're going to have minus the log of drug concentration. Now, just a little reminder from Tuesday. What amounts, on a scale? What's the scale for drug concentration? It's molar, right?
Micromolar.
Well, micro, nano, and pico,
Yeah.
depending on, right? And so, what is minus the log of micromolar?
6.
6, exactly right. And nanomolar?
9.
9. And picomolar?
12.
12. Very good. Okay. So what we could do then is label the x-axis with minus the log of drug concentration. So we'll have, let's start at femtomolar,
15.
right? 15. Let's see. 12. 9. 6. And we'll just, for the hell of it, we'll throw in millimolar as well. Okay. So, percent binding here, we could go to 100% binding. 100% binding. %. We'll put 50% here. And then 25 here. Okay, so we're just looking at binding now, right? 100% binding translates into all of the receptors are bound by the ligand, okay? So, and 0, I guess we'll throw that in. Is no binding, and so if this is a log, what do you think the shape of the binding curve would be? Would be sigmoidal, right? What if we were not looking at the log of the value, but we were just looking at linear x-axis? What would the shape of the binding curve be?
consider long, I think that would be like a straight line. Like a straight.
No? Any other thoughts? Yes.
If it's not, if we don't take the negative log, then I think that's
It's actually going to be hyperbolic. Okay. So, just looking at the side here, let's see if I can draw a line. I don't need that. Why did it do that? Right? So, if it was not a logarithmic scale, it would be sort of like that. And the reason is, as you start adding ligand, binding goes up, but then it sort of plateaus at the top when all the receptors are bound, and then you can continue to add ligand, but you're not going to increase binding because
Saturation.
it's saturation. Exactly so. But in this case, what we're going to do is erase that. In this case, though, this, and we're going to make this black. And what it will do is you'll have, forgive my lack of artistic talent here with a mouse, but you're going to have this classic sigmoidal response. Once again, it flattens at the top once things are saturated. And so most of the time, if you're looking at binding curves in pharmacology, it's rendered as minus the log, right? And so what would it look like, do you think, if there were another drug that had a lower affinity? Suppose, let's say, this is drug X. And what about drug Y? And drug Y has a lower affinity. Go ahead.
So the graph should just shift to the.
That's right. You would displace the binding curve, and if it's binding to the same site on the receptor, it's just going to be displaced to the right. So it would look something like this for drug Y. Oh well, but you see the point. It shifted just to the right. You still reach 100% binding. It just takes more drug to do it. Any questions? Yes.
Dr. Thompson, whenever we are doing this receptor occupancy study, is it always 100% where it plateaus, or it can also plateau much earlier?
Well, what we're talking about here in terms of binding, and it is specific binding. That is, sometimes you have non-specific binding where the ligand will bind to things in an experimental way. The ligand may bind to the vessel, like glass or plastic, and the binding will appear to go up. But what we're looking at here is specific binding. Okay.
Sir,
Question.
is efficacy has to do something with this, the binding.
Well,
Right.
efficacy is linked both to binding and what is called intrinsic activity of the drug.
But my question would be like, if there is a drug which does not bind completely with the receptors, like they
Yeah.
don't occupy the receptor completely,
Right.
so still there will be a plateau over there, like.
In terms, well, that's sort of related to the prior question. And so I'm trying to imagine a scenario where the affinity is so low that you could add a mole and it's not going to occupy all the receptors. I can't imagine that. Okay. The binding curve would be out over by the wall, perhaps. Right? Okay. So that is, now, you were looking at KD, right? On Tuesday. And KD is essentially a fraction of unbound ligand and unbound receptor divided by bound receptor in the denominator, right? And so that is, remember, the smaller the number, right, the higher the affinity, right? So, let's consider this then. So if you look at 50% binding, switch this to that. You look at 50% binding, and you drop that down to the x-axis. %50 binding, the concentration of the drug that produces 50% binding, this is equal to the KD. I don't see any way of doing a subscript on this. Does anyone? Let's go back and see. Is there a subscript somewhere on this? No.
In the format again. We'll have to
No
go
format?
Yeah, it should
well,
be.
that's the thought. Where?
Red dot is only squared red.
You're gonna have to show me. Format.
And
Oh,
maybe
you mean
the
over
fonts.
here? Yeah.
Do maybe.
Yeah, I don't
This
see
is
it.
the-
Yeah. Well, anyway, you get the idea.
Yeah.
The subscript capital G is, let's see, draw arrow here. And you can see the KD is the drug concentration that binds 50% of the receptors. And so that looks roughly, let's see, what would be 10 to the minus 10 molar? That would be, 10 to the minus 10 would be 1/10 nanomolar, or 0.1 nanomolar, right? Where if we did, let's choose a different color here. that's wrong. See if we can get rid of that. Well, change this now. Here, the KD is there, and so that sort of looks like greater than 1 millimolar, right? But this is just, so the point is, from an experimental standpoint, you can get a value for the binding of a drug to the receptors of a particular tissue by doing this kind of binding assay. Have any of you ever had the opportunity to do a binding assay experimentally? Okay, it's technical, and I believe there's another required course here that for the graduate degree, and maybe both for the master's and the PhD, which is drug methods. And you may actually do a binding assay that will allow you to draw these kinds of curves. Okay? So all of this is a measure of binding affinity. So you could get the KD references for binding. Any questions about that? Okay. Now, let's see. We could do a fresh whiteboard here. Is it okay if I erase this? Now let's go, I'm gonna go back to sharing the I guess this would be a new share.
Stop share.
Stop share, and then we'd have to go back.
Yeah.
Let me try a new share here. So one, no. Let's do a stop share, and then we'll do a new share.
That's it.
Go back here. So, what you hopefully you've been drawing this, right?
Yep.
Let's move down a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about relative agonist efficacy and potency. Efficacy is the ability to produce an effect. Potency is how much drug it takes to produce the effect. So, let me cite an example. Let's consider pain. All right. NSAIDs and opiates are both efficacious. However, inherent in the mechanism of action, opiates have greater efficacy than Right. So, you know, if I've seen it depending on one's pain tolerance. There are some people that can tolerate, let's say, post-surgical pain with a combination of, let's say, acetaminophen and another NSAID combination, ibuprofen or something else. And it may reduce some of the pain. But sometimes the pain can be so severe, you really need something more potent, like an opiate, to dull the pain. So there's a sort of a difference in the efficacy between one and another. Another example would be the effect of blood pressure of norepinephrine versus phenylpropanolamine or caffeine. Both of them will raise blood pressure because they both constrict arteries. However, because of the structure of the molecules and their mechanisms of action, norepinephrine is much more efficacious a vasoconstrictor than caffeine is. Okay. Potency, though, relates to how much drug it takes. So as an example, once again looking at opiates, if you wanted to look at respiratory depression, fentanyl is about, 50 or 100 times more potent than morphine? Is it 50 or 100?
100.
About 100 times more potent than morphine. They are both full agonists, though, binding to the opiate receptor. So we could also look at this graphically. Okay? Rather than comparing two drugs that work through different mechanisms, we'll look at drugs that are within one drug class to produce an effect. Okay? So, let's consider blood pressure. And so we're going to do another. There's a way for me to go to whiteboard without having to do a stop share.
Dr. Johnson, do you have like access to the apps? The next in the apps, do you have whiteboard? Like in the apps, yes.
On the right
Do you
one,
have
yes.
whiteboard there? No.
No. All right, well, we'll just do it the other one. Get rid of that. And we'll do a share screen. And go back to the whiteboard. Yeah, I thought I'd gotten rid of these things.
I think you can click the bottom right and get a new whiteboard. This one.
Got it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I'm old.
We are all new.
All right, so we're going to go back and do another graph. So we are going to draw that, and it's going to be black. Actually, it's going to be thick because it's the axis. That's off. That. I want that, okay? And then we're going to do another one. Here blood pressure, right? And here, what do you think would be a good maximum blood pressure? Once someone can get up to blood pressure, what would be the max that someone can sustain without dying?
220.
About 250? We'll say 250. I mean, that is like not good. All right. So we'll put 250. And then we'll put 125 here in the middle. Alright. And then we'll put 60 down here, I guess. And then we'll go down here with 0. And here we have, once again, by the way, a good shortcut for measuring minus the log of the drug concentration is just to do the parentheses there are typically understood to be concentration. Okay. And then once again, we can start here. And let's say we'll do 15, 12, 9, 6, 3. By the way, if we're looking at a logarithmic scale for a concentration, is there a way to represent 0 as a log? I'll let you think about that. Okay? This will be sort of like something that will annoy you for the rest of the day until you figure it out. All right, so. Let's see. What's the log of 0? It's undefined.
Yeah, undefined, yeah.
See, you couldn't resist. Okay. What's the log of what? 0. So, here we have norepinephrine, and because this is minus the log of the drug concentration versus the effect, and we're doing a log, What's the shape going to be? Sigmoidal. And considering the relative potency of norepinephrine, would you imagine that the line is going to be to the left or to the right of the graph?
Left.
Left. Okay, very good. So let's do that. It's going to be looking like that. All right. So this is norepinephrine. Now, let's consider, I don't even know if caffeine can render a full blood pressure response. So let's look at something else. We'll look at something that is less potent. An elevator of blood pressure. I'll just pick one up. Phenylephrine. Okay, phenylephrine, you may recall, is a selective alpha-1 agonist, right? Now, let's imagine that phenylephrine is less potent than norepinephrine. Is the curve going to be to the right or to the left?
To the right.
Right. Correct. Here. We're going to make this one red. There we go. Now, in both of these cases, the way we've imagined it, you will get a maximal effect where there's the plateau of the curve, right? That is typically abbreviated as Emax, okay? Maximal effect. Emax. All right. So, considering that both norepinephrine and phenylephrine, given the dose, would produce a maximal response. Okay. Now, if this could, you can imagine that these curves are just very similar to binding curves.
Yes.
And they could overlap if activating every receptor gives you the maximal response. However, I will tell you that that's not always the case. Sometimes you could get a maximal response without activating every receptor. And the leftover receptors that do not require activation are referred to as spare receptors. And a lot of that, why do you think that is? Where with some drugs you need to activate every single receptor in order to get the maximal response, but you will get a max. In other drugs you don't. How can that be? Any thoughts?
Is it related to their intrinsic activity?
Well, to the extent you could get an Emax, they both have full intrinsic activity, but it's a matter of potency. But some drugs are so potent that you don't need actually to activate every receptor to get a maximal response. Let's just think biochemistry, molecular biology, in a cell system. How is it you can get a maximal response without activating every receptor? Why have spare receptors? Also, with the Emax, blood pressure can only go so high mechanically, right? So, in terms of the Emax, the blood pressure is going as high as the cardiovascular system will allow. But in some instances, you don't have to activate every receptor. Why do you think that is?
So is it like a domino effect? You just activate one and then self-activation of the
Could be, but
Right.
if let's say both of these are increasing blood pressure via activation of alpha-1 receptors on the blood vessels, causing vasoconstriction, blood pressure is going to go up. One other difference, though, is that norepinephrine, because it is less selective, will also activate beta-1 receptors. So you'll get an increase in heart rate. And with phenylephrine, actually, heart rate you may have a reflex bradycardia, and heart rate will drop. The point I'm trying to make, though, it has to do with, once again, the binding of the ligand to the receptor and getting an optimal conformation of the receptor structure, such that some of these drugs, even though they could be full agonists, are less they may not engage the second messenger with as great efficiency. So maybe the conformation of the receptor is suboptimal for activating signal transduction. So you could get a full effect for some of these drugs without necessarily having to activate every receptor. Other drugs, you got to activate every receptor to get an effect. Okay? Now, this looks, getting back on topic here, you've already defined what the Emax is. That's the maximal effect. The other thing in terms of value, in terms of potency, that's frequently worked with is something called the ED50, or the dose of the drug that will produce a 50% response. So, very much like KD, you can go here and this is a 50% response, right? Well, I'm going to change the color. I'm going to go to 5. And then you can drop this down. Okay, so here, what range is the ED50? Just looking at the scale. Right. 10 to the minus 13, which
Yes.
is what?
0.1
0.1 what?
nanomolar.
Nanomolar is 9,
Oh,
right?
picomolar.
Picomolar. So 0.1 picomolar.
Yep.
So that's the ED50. So if in this system you add 0.1 picomoles to the system, you should get a 50% response. Or if you move over to phenylephrine, and then you drop ED50 is one around
0.01.
10 micromolar,
Yes. 0.01.
somewhere between 10 and 100, somewhere. Okay. So if you have an ED50 of 10 micromolar or an ED50 of 0.1 picomolar, which one's more potent? It's going to be the norepinephrine.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. I wonder if there's a way of just I could clear this, right?
I think so. Yep.
There we go. Now, let's go back. Share screen. Here. Share that. So at this point, are there any questions about Emacs and EC50 and how they're represented graphically? We good? Okay. Let's move down the page. Antagonist.
Dr. Johnson.
Yes.
With Emacs, like there are some drugs that dependency, say the effect maximum, if the dose for maximum effect increases with time, like with caffeine, with nicotine. The person if the person is a chain smoker, his nicotine tolerance will go up. For that person, the Emacs will also require more drug over time to reach.
Well, you raise a very good question. What do you think? Let's say you have someone, nicotine, or you could look at in terms of tolerance, which is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It could be morphine,
More, yeah.
right? Where it takes, with repeated exposure, it takes more time
To get the same.
after a period of time, the potency goes down. Okay? Which means then you need to give more drug to achieve the same effect. All right, so why would that be? Anybody?
So down regulation of the receptors.
Down regulation of the receptors, and that's a broad term. Down regulation can either refer to a decrease in the numbers of receptors, and maybe, remember we talked about spare receptors?
Yes.
Maybe if you down regulate, you can down regulate the receptor, have fewer receptors, and you have fewer spare receptors, and then ultimately you may see a decrease in Emax, right? Or another way of looking at down regulation is rather than decreasing the numbers of receptors, you can decrease the sensitivity of the receptors. That is the ability of the receptor to engage, become activated. So the receptor's still there, but it's not going to engage second messenger systems. And in both cases, the pharmacological effect will be a decrease in potency. And so I think that is an amazing physiological response to exposure to anything. And what that points to in so many biological systems is there are ways of maintaining physiological functions within a normal range. That is, maintain something called homeostasis. Right? And for some things, you can have either desensitization of the receptor or downregulation of the receptor, so the potency drops. Now, in the case of opiates, we're not just talking about a decrease in nociception, that is pain perception. We're also talking about other physiologic responses, such as a slowing of the GI tract, right? constipation is commonly seen, or decrease in respiratory effort, right? And the thing is, since we're on the topic of opiates and desensitization and tolerance can be expressed more in one effect than in the other effects. So, for someone who is abusing an opiate to achieve either a decrease in anxiety or a sense of euphoria, feel good, right? Which is the reinforcing factor. By the way, what is the area of the brain that's involved in satiety and feeling good? Anyone know? A little homework for later on. Now this is going to be bugging you until next week, right? You're going to have to look it up. The area of the brain that's responsible for euphoria and actually nociception, the patient tends to develop tolerance over a period of time. The tolerance, though, for respiratory depression and constipation and GI motility is not as large as it is for euphoria. So typically, if someone is really addicted, over a period of time, they'll start to become tolerant to the euphoric effects. And they will increase the dose in order to achieve the euphoria, but they get closer and closer to the toxicity associated with respiratory depression until it reaches the point where someone who's a chronic user, they up the dose and, opiates will render you comatose, right? But the dose will be so high, they'll stop breathing, and that's the lethal overdose that's associated with opiates. And that's why even someone who can be so familiar with using morphine or other opiates, heroin, whatever, with repeated use, they may think, oh, I know this, I know how much it takes, and they just keep on upping the dose because, it never bothered them before, and they don't wake up, and they're dead. Any questions on that?
So, Dr. Johnson, at molecular level, when the receptor is getting less sensitive, it's becoming less sensitive, what happens? Like, is the ligand not able to change the conformation of the receptor, or the secondary messengers, they're not able to bind?
Well, that's a good question. And this is my response. I think that with desensitization, the conformation of the receptor, I don't think changes. So the binding affinity is the same. What I think it has to do is coupling of the receptor to the second messenger. That doesn't happen. Either the availability of second messenger molecules is diminished, right? Or perhaps there can be a conformational change to the site that binds and activates the second messenger. That's a guess on my part, so I don't know for sure. Any other questions? Okay, let's take a look now graphically at competitive antagonism. Remember, as we spoke about on Tuesday, here you have two molecules that are competing for the same binding site. Only one can bind at a time, and as you the degree of antagonism is dependent on the concentration actually of the antagonist, because it's just competitive. So let's see how this looks graphically. By the way, do any of you know what this looks like graphically? Anyone want to take a stab at it? I mean, you guys are better on the computer than me. All right, well, I won't pick on any of you to give it a try. Let's give it a try ourselves. So, we're going to go back to the whiteboard. New. Okay. How do you want to open the whiteboard? We'll just new parts are granted edit permission. Ooh. Okay. Here, we'll just. I don't know why this looks different.
Because you went to
Did I do the wrong one? Should we go back? Well, let's X this out. And we'll try it again. Share screen. Whiteboard. Thanks.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. Yes, I'm sharing it right. Thank you. You can go now. Okay, very good. All right. Draw. Do a thick line. Not that thick. Erase this. Draw this black, and we're going to make it that thick. Let's get a straight line. Let's see how this goes. And here we're going to have text. Put in percent response. And we'll have 100. And then we'll have 0. So we have the x-axis. We have minus the log of the agonist concentration. Okay, based on what we were talking about before, what should we put at the left of the x-axis? What number should we start at?
50.
15? We're looking at minus the log. Should we start at femtomole or picomole or nanomole? Let's, for the hell of it, we'll just start at femtomole. Femto's 15, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, 9 is nano,
Yes.
and then
Pico.
12 is pico,
Yep.
right?
Yes.
6. 3. All right. So let's say we have our agonist. Okay. Put that in. Then format. We'll do a skinny type. And the shape is going to be a sigmoidal, right? I don't like that. That's bad. So this is our agonist, very potent agonist. Why is this not working? Okay. Now, in the system, let's add a competitive antagonist. Okay, and we'll add concentration of 1 picomole antagonist. Okay. Why is this? Okay. Now for a competitive antagonist, the key thing is it displaces the dose response curve of the agonist to the right. Okay? Essentially what it's doing is decreasing the potency of the agonist. Now the agonist can still achieve the Emax, a full response, but it just takes more to do it. All right? And that's because of the competition at the binding site. Now, if, let's say, we go to 1 nanomole, antagonist. it shifts it farther to the right. So just so we're all on the same page, why is it shifted to the right?
More drug is required to achieve the maximum
Yeah, because
response.
you have so much antagonist there, you really got to up the concentration of the agonist in order to have an equivalent binding. Now, what we could do, of course, to get the EC50 in each one of these situations, I guess, is just draw a line across and then down to the x-axis, and you see what the intersect is. So that's competitive antagonism. Any questions about that? Okay. Let's see. Now, there was a way of clearing this. So, here we go. Now we're going to take a look at non-competitive antagonism. Oh, I missed one. When we were just looking at agonism, we talked about full agonists that can produce an Emax. Not all drugs can produce an Emax. They're called partial agonists. So let's just see what they look like. Sorry, I got you out of the flow here. Let's just see. I'm not going to waste time just filling in all the numbers. The key thing here is shape the curves. So for a full agonist, right, where up here is 100% effect. Partial agonist can look something like this, and it can either be to the right or to the left, depending on the potency. But you'll have a depression of the Emax because the partial agonist cannot achieve an Emax, and the reason is that when the partial agonist binds to the receptor, it stabilizes the receptor in such a way that either it's in a suboptimal orientation or the resonance is such that you just can't achieve a full response. Does that make sense? Now, what about if this is 100%. Yeah, here, 50%. Here, let's say we'll have 25%. If you wanted to get the ED50, we already saw how to do it for the full agonist. How would you do it for the partial agonist?
We first find the Emax.
You would go
So
here. Halfway between no response and half response. So the key difference here with the partial agonist is you are not looking at 50% of a full response of a full agonist, you're looking at 50% of full response for the partial agonist. Okay, so the value can, depending on where the potency is in terms of the drug, it can actually be lower, but you have to bear in mind that it's lower of a lower max. Now, let's look at, now that we've gotten partial agonist out of the way, I'm going to clean this up a little bit. And now we're going to be looking at non-competitive antagonists. With a non-competitive antagonist, you have, once again, this is minus the log of the agonist concentration. Okay. Just the agonist alone, you get something that looks like this, which is sort of like our standard. Now, with a non-competitive antagonist, it will look more like this. Okay. And then as you increase the dose of a non-competitive antagonist, until, as you continue to increase the dose of the non-competitive antagonist, you can almost really eliminate the effect. A couple of reasons. There are two ways drugs can be non-competitive antagonists. They can bind with such high affinity to the primary binding site, like covalent bond, okay, that it doesn't come off. So if the ligand does not come off, there is no place for the agonist to bind, and essentially what happens is that the receptor is functionally destroyed. So essentially what you're doing is you are decreasing the numbers of receptors in the system. And so if you dramatically decrease the numbers of receptors, you lose the capacity of the drug to produce a maximal response. There's just not enough activation of signal transduction to do it. Good example of that, non-competitive antagonist, not so much with a receptor but with an enzyme, is organophosphate cholinergic antagonists, right, that bind to acetylcholinesterase permanently. An example of that is certain insecticides and nerve gas weapons like sarin. Okay, they bind covalently to acetylcholinesterase, and as such there's a buildup of acetylcholine, which then starts off by causing seizures, ultimately respiratory arrest, the patient dies or victim dies. Non-competitive binding, which is why you so rarely see non-competitive antagonists, because they really disrupt homeostasis. The second type of non-competitive antagonist is one that binds allosterically to a separate site. Okay? And as a consequence, if you have a non-competitive antagonist binding to an allosteric site, it hinders the conformational change of the receptor. So even if you have the agonist binding at the primary site, it's not going to alter the conformation because the allosteric site binding of the antagonist prevents changing the conformation of the receptor. So in both cases, you're taking the quantity of receptors out of the system, and as you add more and more antagonists, the maximal effect drops, and there is some shifting to the right. But that's typically what it looks like, sort of like a fan. Any questions on this? Okay. Can partial agonists be good? What do you think? On Tuesday, did we talk about buprenorphine? Right? Partial agonist. Have any of you heard of a drug called Chantix? That's the brand name.
Yes,
What's
but
that?
any clean. But any clean.
Chantix is used in
Nicotine.
treating patients who are addicted to nicotine.
Nicotine, yes.
And it's a partial agonist of the nicotine receptor. And so it does two things. As we spoke about on Tuesday, it decreases the response of a full agonist. So if someone smokes a cigarette, they don't get the full euphoric effect if they're on Chantix. Secondly, it can decrease the cravings. So there's a certain level of satiety with Chantix, but the satiety is not linked to the full reinforcing effects of nicotine. Actually, I have, just off topic, but I think it's worthwhile. I mean, after an hour and a half, you guys got to be getting fatigued, although you're all looking good, okay? I'm having lunch with a guy who does addiction counseling. He's a clinical counselor, and he is really anti-buprenorphine. And so as a pharmacologist, I'm going to have a discussion with him as a counselor about the pros and cons of buprenorphine. Anyone have any thoughts on that? Because one of his arguments is, oh, you're just trading addiction to heroin to addiction with buprenorphine, and ultimately their addiction is not really extinguished. You're just substituting one thing for another. And then I could talk, as a pharmacologist, I could talk about relative safety, the fact that the patient is now operating with a legal drug. Yes.
So I think we should consider what's the benefit and risk by giving that drug to the actual patient. So if the risk is higher than the benefit, when the patient will get, then we should think about what will be possible pay for.
Yeah, well, considering, let's say, heroin and especially fentanyl are extremely dangerous. Buprenorphine is less so. Heroin is actually legal in the UK. It's not legal in the United States. So it's good to keep your client behaviorally operating within the legal framework as opposed to outside the legal framework. Also, there's problems with adulteration. Someone gets a hold of heroin, it's typically, for sale on the street, it's typically cut with other things that can be toxic, or at least it's pure if you're getting buprenorphine. You're right, it's cost benefit or cost risk analysis, which is good. One last thing before I let you go, from a historical standpoint. the British monarch, King George VI. You know his story about how he died? No? Well, little factoid. He had issues, I think it was chronic lower lung disease like emphysema. Terrible smoker. He could have used some Shanties maybe. And he was reaching the end of his life and he was just about to die. So for the sake of timing and then lessening the suffering that King George, let's see, I think it's, yeah, King George V, was suffering. What his physician did was he gave him an overdose of heroin and cocaine and timed it in such a way that the news of the king's death would be in the morning newspaper. And that's how King George V, who reigned in 1920s, died. Now, if they'd given him some naloxone that could have brought him back, right? They had it, but they didn't. All right, we'll stop here. We'll continue on Tuesday. All right.
Sir,
Yeah,
one question.
sure.
When the drug binds to a receptor,
Yeah.
how is that different from when drug binds to an enzyme?
Well, it's similar.